Welcome to the TOEFL listening section. In this part, you will hear one or more conversations in an academic or campus context, such as a discussion between a student and a professor or between two students. You may take notes while listening. Listen to part of a conversation. You will hear it only once, so listen carefully. After the conversation, you will answer questions about what you heard. Some questions will ask you about main ideas and details. Others will ask about implied meaning, speaker attitude, or how ideas relate to one another. Use both what is stated and what is implied to answer.
Good afternoon, Dr. Morales. Thanks for meeting me during office hours. I wanted to go over wetland rehabilitation methods for my seminar presentation.
Hi, Jason. No problem. Tell me what you have so far and where you are stuck.
I have a list of techniques, but I am struggling to organize them logically and to explain why certain methods are prioritized in different contexts.
A good organizing principle is to start with hydrology because water regime drives wetland structure and function, then address geomorphology, then vegetation and biotic interactions.
So hydrologic restoration should come first most of the time. Could you give concrete examples of hydrologic methods?
Sure. Common hydrologic interventions include ditch plugging to slow drainage, breaching or removing dikes to restore tidal exchange, raising water tables in drained peatlands, and modifying water control structures to re-establish natural hydroperiods.
Plugging ditches sounds straightforward, but are there cases where it does not work?
Yes, if the landscape has been deeply subsided, or if there is heavy legacy sedimentation, simply plugging ditches may not fully restore flooding because the topography no longer supports the original hydroperiod.
In that case, what would you do next? Regrade the site?
Exactly. Regrading and earthworks can recreate microtopography, reconnect floodplains, and create shallow basins that hold water long enough for wetland species to reestablish.
What about coastal marshes where subsidence is combined with sea level rise? Would regrading help there?
For coastal systems, we often combine breaching of seawalls or dikes with managed sediment augmentation. We may add thin layers of mineral sediment to raise marsh surfaces while restoring tidal flow so natural accretion can resume.
You mentioned vegetation earlier. What are the standard methods for restoring plant communities in wetlands?
There are a few approaches. Passive regeneration relies on existing seed banks and recolonization from nearby reference sites. Active planting uses plugs or transplants of native emergent, submerged, or woody species. Direct seeding is also used when propagule availability is high and disturbance is minimal.
When would you choose active planting over passive recovery?
Active planting is chosen when the propagule bank has been depleted, when invasive species dominate the seed bank, or when we need to accelerate recovery for specific functions like denitrification or habitat for target fauna.
Speaking of invasive species, what control methods are used in rehabilitation projects?
A toolbox approach works best. Mechanical removal, targeted herbicide application, controlled flooding to disadvantage invasives, and biological control when appropriate. Follow-up is critical because many invasives resprout from roots or seeds.
How about soil interventions? Are amendments common in wetland restoration?
Soil amendments like adding organic matter can help in highly degraded soils. But often altering hydrology is enough to restore redox conditions and nutrient cycling. In contaminated sites, capping with clean sediment or engineered materials may be needed.
Can you give me one or two case studies I could include in my talk to illustrate these methods?
Sure. The restoration of the Kissimmee River floodplain is a good inland example where removing channelization and reconnecting floodplains restored hydrology and native vegetation. For coastal restoration, the breaching of managed retreat sites in the UK and the Pacific Northwest show how dike removal and sediment addition can re-establish tidal marshes.
Those are helpful. What role does adaptive management play in these projects?
Adaptive management is central. Projects set explicit targets, monitor hydrology, vegetation, soil, and fauna, and then adjust interventions. For example, if invasive cattail expands after rewetting, managers might reintroduce controlled grazing or targeted removal to maintain open water areas.
What kinds of monitoring metrics are most informative after rehabilitation?
Hydroperiod data loggers to record water depth and duration, vegetation surveys to quantify cover and species composition, soil redox and organic matter measurements, and faunal surveys for birds and amphibians. Water quality indicators like nutrient concentrations are also important to assess ecosystem function.
Is it common to use reference sites to set restoration targets?
Yes, we use reference sites to define realistic species assemblages, hydroperiod regimes, and structural complexity. Reference conditions also inform adaptive thresholds for management actions.
Are there trade-offs when prioritizing different ecosystem services during rehabilitation?
Absolutely. Maximizing water storage might reduce emergent vegetation that supports certain bird species. Restoring tidal flow might increase sedimentation that benefits marsh resilience, but also change fish nursery habitat. Stakeholder engagement helps balance these trade-offs.
How long do rehabilitation projects typically take to show measurable ecological recovery?
Initial hydrologic response can be immediate. Vegetation changes often occur within 3 to 5 years, but full functional recovery, including soil development and faunal community maturation, can take decades.
One last question: how do we prioritize interventions when budgets are limited?
Prioritize actions that restore key processes. Often that means restoring hydrology first, then managing invasives to allow native plants to establish, and finally targeted plantings if needed. Use pilot projects and phased interventions to spread costs and learn before scaling up.
Thanks, that gives me a clear structure. I will organize my presentation around hydrology, geomorphology, vegetation, invasive control, and monitoring with those case studies.
That sounds like a strong plan. Remember to emphasize adaptive management and to show how methods are chosen based on site-specific constraints and targets.
I will. I appreciate the guidance and the practical examples.
You are welcome. Send me your draft and we can refine the technical language for the seminar.
Listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question.
We monitor hydrology, vegetation, soil and fauna, and then adjust interventions based on those results so the project can be flexible and effective.
This concludes the conversation portion. For more TOEFL practice tests and study materials, visit Spinta.org.